we will now concentrate on a very important aspect of Himalayan geology. And very recently, you know that couple of very high energy events have caused a lot of destruction in the Himalaya. One of the events was the Ladakh cloudburst, and also another event, the June Rudraprayag event actually. They caused big floods actually. Now one of the things that is happening is that massive floods have taken place. So the idea is that you look now, these floods are essentially because the big floods happen either because the breaching of a natural dam, so it's a dam break, right? So you have a reservoir, a dam breaks, and the entire water is evacuated instantaneously actually. So downstream there is a catastrophic event, okay? Now this is an example of a paleo lake, okay? Now why do we say it is a paleo lake? Any evidence that you have seen since yesterday which gives us an indicator that this could have been a paleo lake. There is a valley over here, the valley widens, it becomes narrow, okay? You can draw a sketch, show the valley is widening a little bit over there. So it is essentially a river valley. There's no business for a lake to be here actually, okay? And the upstream direction is on our right, the downstream direction is on that side, okay? Now, do you see anything abnormal here? Because रास्ते में हम देखते आए, flesh देखते आए. So the bedrock is very highly folded, faulted, inclined, warped, fractured, sheared bedrock, which is what? What is that lithology? What is the lithology bedrock here? Lamayuru flesh, okay? So we will show now we are in the quaternary. We have to start thinking in terms of hydrology, for instance, now. You get very little rainfall. This is not a monsoon affected area. So this is essentially a semi-arid kind of condition. I don't know whether the westerlies come. So only the flux of water that is coming in is non-monsoonal actually. Would you have groundwater here? Would there be groundwater, and what kind of groundwater? You cannot have a sandstone aquifer over here, right? They don't have any porosity actually. So you'll have fracture porosities, right? A very secondary porosity will be high degree of secondary porosity actually. So as long as you can recharge, you can get a high water table actually, because the fracture porosity is very high. So in terms of the hydrological cycle, if you have a source of water, the terrain is such that it can store water in the subsurface actually. And subsurface seepages can feed this stream, if that is one way of feeding the stream. So the hydrological part is that actually. You see something abnormal जो हम रास्ते में देखते आ रहे थे. We did see valley deposits actually on the way, very, very thick and so on. But here you see a lithology over there, right, which is horizontal beds are there. Bedrock color comparable to the lighter one or to the darker one? Lighter one. So you see the scree is there on this. There's a huge amount of scree. Yes. All that over behind you see a lot of scree over there. Yes. Right? That scree is showing internal stratification. Yes. Right? So that scree is internally stratified also. Okay. So I have to now basically I have to connect. So available material. So we have two situations. I have to now connect. I'm talking about connectivity between the slope and the channel. Right? Is it connected? Has it a low connectivity? Has it a high connectivity? There is 1 or 2% sediment connectivity between the hill slope and the channel. You understand what is sediment connectivity? Lateral sediment connectivity. You understand what is lateral connectivity between the lateral sediment connectivity between the slope and the channel, right? It can be quantified. Okay, so it is a aspect which can be quantified, and then the time aspect of that connectivity is temporal also, right? Am I keeping it connected for 10,000 years? Am I keeping it connected for 1 day because of a cloudburst, right? So what kind of time connectivity is there? So there is both time and the amount of material that is being transferred, and with what rate it is being transferred. So these are all quantifiable parameters actually. Now, if this slope was there and I forget this scree slope and I go to that slope and put water there, right? I put 10,000 buckets of water over there, right? जितना मटेरियल उसके ऊपर है वो तो आ जाएगा जो है. उसके बाद मेरी सप्लाई खत्म हो जाती है, उसमें स्क्री नहीं है, right? So then it becomes sediment supply limited situation. So you are limiting it because आप चाहे cloudburst में लेक भी आओगे, माल ही नहीं है तो कनेक्ट कहाँ से करोगे जो है, right? There is no mal there, right? Apni factory khali hai jo hai, so you cannot connect it, right? So there is no connection essentially. There may be water connection, but no sediment connectivity. So either you limit it, you can have a sediment supply limited situation or a transport limited situation. Right now, we are in a transport limited situation. All I need is a trigger to connect it actually, right? So I have to change the transport conditions as they are today. So I just have to shift the transport conditions. So this is the conceptual issue as far as how do I bring material. And the river has its own upstream, downstream connectivity, right? So there is a way of upstream, downstream connectivity. The upstream, downstream transfer function in terms of material is going to give you a much lower rate than an instantaneous transfer from a supply unlimited situation down into this actually. Okay? You got the idea? Okay.
In that case, we are looking at the sections while discussing about the internal stratification. If we see the slope, the topographic surface there is no stratification. We find stratification only when we see the section. In this case, we are looking at the topographic surface but not any section. You commented that there is no internal stratification. But my question is, are we looking at the proper section to comment on internal stratification?
This is, see, the mass fasting has a category of processes. There are falls, there are slides, there are flows, right? There are solifluctions, right? So you have to, this is essentially only gravitative transfer of talus and scree on a slope, that's all, right? So there is no flow over here, there is no mass flow over here. And then somebody has done a radiocarbon date and they found that from these chalky facies, looked at some of the shells and they radiocarbon dated the shells and the shells gave an age of approximately 25,000 years, right? So that radiocarbon age then was extrapolated down to the base and they have another date from somewhere near the base and they think that the age of formation of the lake or of that landslide is 35,000 years. Because the lake formation and the landslide is more or less the same age. Okay, it's 35,000 years. Okay. Now, with that, the story is essentially about filling up. Then you have to fill up this thing. So you will get a lot of events, you will get more landslides, you will get more mass flows. Whenever there will be high sediment connectivity between that slope and the slope from this side, those will go into the river. Right? So there will be lake delta beds. So people have recognized high angle lake delta beds which are there at 15-20 degrees. You can see some mass flow deposits, low angle marginal deposits. So when you go towards the core, you will get essentially chalky facies. When you come towards the margin, you will get an interfingering between the slope related mass flows, hyperconcentrated related flows and the lake facies. This is exactly what I interpreted for you at Kargil. You remember when we were in Kargil? Swamp and this thing. That was the lake margin facies. Now you can see a modern example of that. We have made the lake, we have developed the concept of supply limited, transport limited, different types of mass flows can be there. The ones that we see there are having stratification, right? Stratification can be done by textural differentiation, grain size differentiation, right? And or a combination of all, right? So size क्या भी हो सकता है, compositional भी हो सकता है, color भी हो सकता है, या तीनों को मिला के भी जो है all three may be operated.
Slope failure भी हो सकता है.
Slope like in a diamectite actually, and the granular material is less, then it will be a viscous flow. The more silt clay content, it will be more viscous actually, right? So in these actually you get pebbly material and also silt clay, right? So you get angular pebbly material and silt clay. That means you have somewhere in between some cohesive strength, but it is a semi-viscous flow, right? And there will be portions of this where the fluidity may be high actually, right? And wherever the fluidity is high and the viscosity is relatively low, it will, and the slope is this thing, it will start stratifying it will take the slope of the slope deposits. So these are referred to as slope mantled deposits. This stratification is not purely in a Newtonian water transport condition, right? It is under a semi-viscous this thing and takes on the stratification. It is also influenced by the Coulomb's law essentially, which means the angle of repose and the frictional resistance of the slope, that is why the angle of slope. So the rheology of the material, the strength of the viscosity of the material, and here there is an additional complication in terms of density, right? The density can also be very heterogeneous in a mass flow over here because you have serpentinites at one end and you have normal siliceous silt and clay and calcareous silt and clay on the other side. So calcareous silt and clay, siliceous silt and clay, serpentinite and limestone and maybe some other igneous rocks all have different densities actually, right? And each one of them is a component in them actually, right? So density can be different, fluidity can be different, viscosity can be different, and therefore in a mass flow you will expect a tremendous amount of heterogeneity in the characteristics actually, right? So when you look at mass flows, you have to look at the issue of viscosity, density, fluidity, and the cohesive strength actually, and then in terms of that you interpret. So that is the properties there. Now if I have today, if I have an 8 magnitude earthquake, do you think those are going to be stable?
No.
Right? What will happen to them?
Collapse.
Right? If I have a 9 magnitude earthquake, what will happen? Right? This valley will disappear. Right? In a 9 magnitude, there is no transport limited है, sediment supply limited तो है नहीं, पूरा मटेरियल पड़ा हुआ, मलबा पड़ा हुआ है, वो सारा ये फेलियर होगा जो है, ये फेलियर ट्रांसपोर्ट होके डाउन स्लोप चलेगा जो है, वो आके यहाँ पे जितना इसको मेंटल कर देगा जो है, right? So that's the way these things move actually. So you require, when you require high instantaneous movement of a large this thing, you require a high magnitude event actually. The other way to induce a high magnitude event, as I said, is that you also, if when you studied mass bursting, हम तो अपने ज़माने में बर्नौली की किताब से पढ़ते थे, आप कौन सी किताब, बहुत किताबें आ गई हैं, तुमने पढ़ा होगा एक बड़ा फेमस डायग्राम है, सॉलिफ्लक्शन rotational slumps की बात करते हैं, right? So when you see this, there is always in the vertical, if you go, you will find that there will be material which is relatively stronger, and then there will be muddy material actually, right? This muddy material, when you squeeze out, there is no water in it actually, right? And then it becomes compact and semi-lithified actually, right? Now if I go to the plane, I have 100 meters of this stratified unit, and beneath that I have 5 meters of mud, 1 to 10 के ratio में. I go and put water head in this actually, right? And 50 meters उसके नीचे. I lubricate this. So it begins now. Water enters into the mud actually, right? It liquefies the mud essentially. Okay. So liquefaction of the mud takes place, and you get a surface which is essentially a mobile surface. And anything on that is going to be transported happily down slope actually, right? And if you have 4 or 5 such, that's also enough to bring it. So there are many mechanisms by which you can bring down the material into this actually. So you have seen the material properties, you have seen the issues of connection, transport limited, sediments limited, hydrological cycle, how it is going down, hydrological cycle, how it is feeding the water, how the base level of the lake is increasing. Now there is no lake. So now you have to drain out the lake also. So the last part of the story is that you have to puncture that dam actually. You have to break that dam. So something must happen by which you break that dam. You can either break it naturally, but the story here is, nobody knows how the dam got broken. The story people have said here is, when this monastery was established about 1,000 years ago, at that time there was a lake. So in the written records it's still there. And the Naropa was the Lama over there. Apparently the lake would have been at some level over there. So then the lake must have threatened the Wampa actually. It must have been rising actually. So the story is that they punctured it. So they drained out the lake. That is the story, which is question mark, but that is there in the history.